When a lonely cowboy falls for the town's overlooked seamstress, he discovers her gentle request hides a deadly secret that could destroy them both, or set her free forever. The brass doorknob turns with the reluctance of rusted metal against bone. October wind howls through Copper Ridge like a wounded animal, rattling windows and sending tumbleweeds skittering down Main Street like frightened ghosts. The year is 1887, and winter approaches the Colorado Territory with the inevitability of Judgment Day. Inside Molly's dress shop, steam rises from a cup of coffee gone cold hours ago. Fabric scraps litter the floor like fallen leaves, silk the color of sunset, cotton white as fresh snow, wool dark as midnight secrets. The oil lamp flickers, casting dancing shadows across bolts of cloth that stand sentinel against the walls. The door rattles against its frame. Once, twice. "Please," she whispers to the empty room. "Don't push the door too hard." The third rattle is followed by the scrape of boots on wooden planks. Heavy footsteps, deliberate, male. Molly's needle stops mid-stitch. Her breathing becomes shallow, measured. She knows those footsteps, has memorized their rhythm over the past 3 weeks like a song she cannot forget. "Miss Brennan?" The voice carries the warmth of honey poured over gravel. "Shop still open?" Tom McKenzie fills the doorframe like a question mark against the dying light. 6 feet of lean muscle wrapped in worn denim and leather, he removes his hat to reveal hair the color of wheat before harvest. His eyes are blue as high country lakes, and when he looks at Molly, she sees something she has never seen before in a man's gaze. Genuine interest. "Mr. McKenzie." She sets down her needle with careful precision. "What brings you by so late?" "Wanted to check on that shirt you're mending." He steps inside and the floorboards protest under his weight. "Also wanted to ask you something." Molly's heart performs an irregular dance against her ribs. In the 3 weeks since Tom first entered her shop, a drifter cowboy with a torn shirt and a shy smile, he has returned 7 times. Each visit longer than the last. Each conversation more personal than propriety should allow. The shirt's nearly finished. She gestures toward a blue cotton garment hanging on a wooden form. "Should be ready tomorrow." "That's not what I wanted to ask about." Tom approaches slowly as if she were a wild animal that might bolt. "There's a church social this Saturday. Dancing, food. Figured you might." "Might what?" "Might like to go. With me." The words hang in the air between them like smoke from a dying fire. Molly stares at him, searching his face for the cruel joke she expects to find. Men like Tom McKenzie do not court women like Molly Brennan. They court the banker's daughter with her tiny waist and musical laugh. They court the schoolteacher with her porcelain skin and delicate hands. They do not court the fat seamstress who lives alone above her shop and talks to her cat. "Why?" The question escapes before she can stop it. "Why what? Why would you want to take me?" Tom's expression softens. He takes another step closer, and Molly catches the scent of leather and sage that clings to his clothes. "Because you're kind. Because you listen when people talk instead of just waiting for your turn to speak. Because when you smile, really smile, it lights up your whole face." "I'm not." Molly gestures vaguely at herself. "I'm not what men usually want." "Then they're fools." Tom's voice carries conviction that makes her chest tight. "You're exactly what I want." Before Molly can respond, the shop door flies open with violent force. The brass hinges shriek in protest. The wooden frame splinters where the lock tears free. Sheriff Wade Garrett stands in the doorway, badge glinting in the lamplight. Behind him, 2 deputies flank the entrance like bookends. Garrett's face is hard as winter ground, his gray eyes cold as January snow. "Evening, Miss Brennan." "Mackenzie." Tom's hand moves instinctively toward his gun, then stops. Sheriff, something wrong? Depends on your perspective. Garrett steps inside, his boots grinding fabric scraps into the floorboards. Got a telegram from Denver today. Seems there's been some questions about Miss Brennan's past. Molly's blood turns to ice water in her veins. I don't know what you mean. Sure you do. Garrett pulls a folded paper from his vest pocket. Says here you're wanted for questioning in connection with the death of one Harold Brennan. Your husband. The words hit the room like a physical blow. Tom's head snaps toward Molly, confusion and concern warring in his expression. Molly? Harold died in an accident, Molly says, her voice barely above a whisper. A fall down the stairs. Funny thing about accidents, Garrett muses, unfolding the telegram. Sometimes they look suspicious to folks who know what to look for, especially when the deceased had recently changed his will to leave everything to his wife. Tom steps protectively closer to Molly. You got proof of wrongdoing, Sheriff, or just suspicions? Got enough to take her in for questioning. Garrett nods to his deputies. Miss Brennan, you'll need to come with us. No. The word erupts from Tom with surprising force. She's not going anywhere until you show me a proper warrant. Garrett's smile is sharp as a blade. Don't need a warrant for questioning, Cowboy. Just need reasonable suspicion, and a dead husband with a broken neck tends to raise questions. Molly feels the walls of her carefully constructed life crumbling around her. For 3 years she has hidden in Copper Ridge, building a quiet existence from the ashes of her past. Now, with Tom's declaration of interest still echoing in her ears, everything threatens to unravel. It's all right, she tells Tom, though her voice shakes. I'll go with them. Like hell you will. Tom's hand settles on his gun butt. Not without answers. The tension in the room thickens like smoke from green wood. Garrett's deputies shift nervously, hands hovering near their weapons. Outside, the wind continues its mournful song, rattling windows and doors with increasing violence. Stand down, Mackenzie, Garrett warns. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Seems to me you're the one making it hard. Tom's voice carries the quiet authority of a man accustomed to being obeyed. Lady says her husband died in an accident. You got evidence to the contrary? Got a witness says otherwise. The words fall like stones into still water, sending ripples of shock through the room. Molly's face goes white as fresh snow. That's impossible. Is it? Garrett's smile widens. Seems your neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, heard quite a commotion the night Harold died. Shouting, sounds of a struggle, then silence. Mrs. Patterson is 80 years old and deaf as a post, Molly protests. Funny how grief can sharpen the memory. Garrett folds the telegram and returns it to his pocket. Makes people remember things they might have forgotten. Tom studies the sheriff's face with the intensity of a man reading sign on a difficult trail. Something doesn't sit right. Garrett's too confident, too eager, like a man playing a winning hand in a rigged game. Who sent the telegram? Tom asks. Denver authorities. Which ones? Garrett's pause is barely perceptible, but Tom catches it. Detective Morrison. Never heard of him. Wouldn't expect you to know every lawman in Colorado, but Tom does know them, at least the important ones. He has spent the last 5 years working as a range detective, tracking rustlers and thieves across 3 territories. Detective Morrison is not a name that appears in any official correspondence he has seen. Mind if I take a look at that telegram? Mind if you keep your nose out of official business? The standoff stretches like a taut rope. Tom weighs his options. Draw on 3 armed men in close quarters, or let them take Molly and hope he can sort things out later. Neither choice appeals to him. It is Molly who breaks the deadlock. I'll go, she says quietly. But I want to lock up my shop first, secure my things. Garrett considers this. 5 minutes. My men will watch the doors. As the deputies position themselves outside, Molly moves through her shop with deliberate care. She extinguishes the oil lamp, covers her sewing machine, and straightens bolts of fabric with the precision of someone performing a ritual. Tom follows her movements, noting how her hands shake despite her outward calm. When she reaches for a small wooden box on the counter, he sees her slip something inside her dress pocket. "Molly," he says softly, "whatever happened in Denver?" "You don't know me," she interrupts. "Not really. We've talked 7 times. That doesn't make you responsible for my troubles." "Maybe not, but it makes me care about what happens to you." She turns to face him, and in the dim light filtering through the windows, he sees tears threatening to spill from her eyes. "You should forget about me, Tom. Find yourself a nice girl without complications." "Don't want a nice girl without complications." He steps closer, close enough to see the gold flecks in her brown eyes. "Want you?" Before she can respond, Garrett's voice cuts through the moment. "Time's up, Miss Brennan." As they prepare to leave, Tom notices something odd. The shop door, which Garrett's men had forced open with such violence, shows no sign of damage. The hinges are intact, the lock unbroken. The splintered wood he thought he saw is nowhere to be found. The door opens and closes normally, as if it had never been forced at all. The Copper Ridge jail consists of 3 cells in the basement of the courthouse, each barely large enough to hold a cot and a chamber pot. Molly sits on the thin mattress, staring at the stone walls that weep moisture like tears. Above her, she can hear the measured footsteps of the night deputy making his rounds. She has been here for 6 hours. 6 hours to think about the life she has built and the life she left behind. 6 hours to remember Harold Brennan and the night he died. The truth is more complicated than either innocence or guilt. Harold had been a good man when she married him. Kind, gentle, patient with her insecurities about her appearance. But success had changed him. As his shipping business grew, so did his appetite for control. He began dictating what she wore, whom she spoke to, where she could go. The night he died, he had been drinking. Heavily. They had argued about her desire to visit her sister in California, a trip he forbade with increasing vehemence. When she persisted, he had grabbed her arm hard enough to leave bruises. She had pulled away. He had stumbled backward. The stairs had been there. It was an accident. But it was also her fault. If she had not argued, if she had simply accepted his decision, he would still be alive. The guilt had driven her from Denver to Copper Ridge, where she hoped to disappear into anonymity. For 3 years, it had worked. Until tonight. Footsteps on the stairs interrupt her brooding. She expects to see the deputy with her evening meal. Instead, Tom Mackenzie appears outside her cell, a ring of keys in his hand. "How did you—" "Deputy's taking a nap." Tom unlocks the cell door. Seems someone slipped something in his coffee. "Tom, you can't. This will only make things worse." "Can't get much worse than a hanging." He swings the door open. "Come on. We need to talk." Against her better judgment, Molly follows him up the stairs and out into the night. The wind has died to a whisper, and stars pierce the darkness like scattered diamonds. Tom leads her to the livery stable, where 2 horses wait saddled and ready. "Where are we going?" "Somewhere we can talk without interruption." He helps her mount, his hands gentle but firm. There's something about tonight that doesn't add up. They ride in silence through the sleeping town and out onto the open range. The moon is nearly full, casting silver light across the grassland that stretches to the horizon like a frozen sea. After an hour, Tom stops beside a small creek lined with cottonwoods. This is far enough. He dismounts and helps her down. "Now tell me what really happened in Denver." Molly settles on a fallen log beside the water, gathering her courage like a woman preparing to jump from a great height. "Harold was my husband. He did die in a fall down the stairs. And yes, we had been arguing." "About what?" "About everything, about nothing. About the fact that I wanted to visit my sister and he wouldn't let me." She picks up a smooth stone, turning it over in her palm. "He had been drinking. When I tried to leave the room, he grabbed my arm. I pulled away. He lost his balance. Accident. Yes, but also my fault. If I hadn't argued. If he hadn't been a controlling drunk who put his hands on you." Tom's voice carries an edge of anger. "Sounds to me like you were defending yourself. The law might see it differently, Might. If there was actually a law involved. Tom settles beside her on the log. Thing is, I've been thinking about that telegram, about Sheriff Garrett's story, and none of it makes sense. What do you mean? Detective Morrison doesn't exist. I know every detective in Denver, and there's no Morrison on the force. Tom's eyes reflect the moonlight like chips of ice, which means someone paid Garrett to arrest you. Question is why. Molly feels a chill that has nothing to do with the night air. Who would want me arrested? Someone who benefits from you being gone. Someone who knows about your past and can use it against you. Tom studies her face in the silver light. Someone who wants something you have. I don't have anything worth. Molly stops mid-sentence, her hand moving instinctively to her dress pocket. Oh God. What? She pulls out the item she had taken from her shop, a small brass key attached to a faded ribbon. Harold's safety deposit box. I've been carrying the key for 3 years, but I was too afraid to go back to Denver. What's in the box? I don't know. Harold never told me, but the bank sends me notices every year about the rental fee. I've been paying it from here, but I never thought. Her voice trails off as the implications sink in. Someone else knows about the box, someone who can't access it without the key. Tom takes the key, examining it in the moonlight. The brass is tarnished with age, but the numbers are still visible. 247. Who else knew Harold had a safety deposit box? His business partner, Marcus Webb. Molly's voice drops to a whisper. Marcus always resented that Harold left everything to me instead of to him. He said I didn't deserve it, that I was just a fat woman who got lucky. Where's Webb now? I don't know. After Harold's funeral, he disappeared. I assumed he started over somewhere else. Tom stands, pacing to the creek's edge. Pieces of the puzzle begin falling into place. What if he didn't disappear? What if he's been watching you, waiting for the right moment to claim what he thinks is his? But how would he know I came to Copper Ridge? Small towns talk. Word gets around about newcomers, especially ones with money to start a business. Tom turns back to her. He could have been planning this for months, years even. The sound of approaching hoofbeats cuts through the night air. Tom's hand moves to his gun as 3 riders emerge from the darkness. Sheriff Garrett leads the group, flanked by his deputies. Well, well, Garrett calls out as they approach. Looks like we got ourselves a jailbreak. Tom steps protectively in front of Molly. Just having a conversation, Sheriff. Conversation's over. Garrett dismounts, his hand resting on his gun butt. Miss Brennan, you're under arrest for escaping custody. Mackenzie, you're under arrest for aiding and abetting. On whose authority? Tom demands. Mine. A 4th rider emerges from the shadows, a well-dressed man in his 50s with silver hair and cold eyes. Hello, Molly. You're looking well. Molly's blood turns to ice. Marcus. Marcus Webb dismounts with the confidence of a man who holds all the cards. 3 years is a long time, my dear. I was beginning to think you'd never surface. What do you want, Marcus? What's rightfully mine? Harold's business? His assets? His legacy? Webb's smile is sharp as a blade. Everything you stole when you murdered him. I didn't murder anyone. Didn't you? Webb pulls a folded document from his coat. I have a witness statement from Mrs. Patterson describing the sounds of violence from your home that night. I have evidence of your motive, Harold's will leaving everything to you, and I have testimony about your unstable mental state in the weeks before his death. Tom studies the document, noting the crisp paper and fresh ink. Convenient how all this evidence surfaced just now. Justice has a way of revealing itself. Webb replies smoothly. So does greed. Tom's voice carries quiet menace. How much did you pay Garrett to play along with this charade? Garrett's face flushes red. Watch your mouth, cowboy. Or what? You'll arrest me for telling the truth? Tom takes a step forward. Funny thing about the truth, it has a way of coming out. The only truth that matters is in this document, Webb says, waving the papers. Molly Brennan is a murderer, and murderers hang. Not without a trial, Tom points out. Oh, there'll be a trial, a quick one, with a predetermined outcome. Webb's smile widens. Unless, of course, Molly decides to cooperate. Cooperate how? By signing over Harold's assets to their rightful owner, by admitting her guilt and accepting exile instead of execution. Webb's eyes glitter in the moonlight. A generous offer considering the circumstances. Molly feels the trap closing around her like the jaws of a steel bear trap. She can sign away everything Harold left her and live in exile, or she can fight and likely hang for a crime she did not commit. What's it going to be, Molly? Webb asks. Your signature or your neck? Before Molly can answer, Tom speaks. There's a third option, which is the truth. Tom's hand moves to his gun, starting with the real reason you want Harold's assets. Webb's composure slips slightly. I don't know what you mean. Sure you do. Harold discovered something, didn't he? Something about your business practices. Something worth killing for. You're fishing, Mackenzie. Am I? Tom's smile is cold as winter wind. Then you won't mind if we take a look at what's in that safety deposit box. The mention of the box hits Webb like a physical blow. His face goes pale and his hand moves instinctively toward his gun. What box? The one Harold rented just before he died. The one Molly's been paying for all these years. Tom's voice carries quiet triumph. The one you've been trying to get access to for 3 years. Garrett shifts nervously. Webb, you didn't say anything about a box. Because there is no box, Webb snaps, but his voice lacks conviction. Then you won't mind if we ride to Denver and check. Tom's challenge hangs in the air like smoke. The standoff stretches taut as a bowstring. 5 people, 4 guns, and the truth balanced on a knife's edge. It is Molly who breaks the silence. What did Harold find, Marcus? Her voice is steady now, strengthened by understanding. What was worth destroying both our lives? Webb's mask finally slips completely. He found the shipping manifests, the real ones, the ones showing how I'd been skimming from the business for years. How much? Enough. Webb's gun clears leather with surprising speed. Enough to make me rich and him dead. The admission hangs in the night air like a confession written in starlight. Garrett and his deputies exchange uncertain glances, suddenly realizing they have been played. You killed Harold, Molly whispers. I arranged for his death, made it look like an accident. Would have worked perfectly if he hadn't hidden those damned manifests. Webb's voice carries the bitterness of a plan gone wrong. I've spent 3 years looking for them. 3 years waiting for you to lead me to them. The safety deposit box. The safety deposit box. Webb's gun swings toward Tom, which you're going to open for me tonight. Like hell I am. You are, because if you don't, I'll kill her right here, right now, and claim she was resisting arrest. Tom weighs his options. Webb has the drop on him. Garrett and his men are wild cards. They might side with Webb, or they might decide to cut their losses. Either way, Molly is in immediate danger. All right, Tom says slowly. But we do this my way. No more lies, no more games. You're not in a position to make demands. Sure I am. Tom's smile is sharp as a blade. Because I'm the only one here who knows where the real evidence is hidden. Webb's eyes narrow. What evidence? The evidence Harold left behind. Not in a safety deposit box in Denver, but right here in Copper Ridge. Tom's voice carries quiet confidence. Hidden where only someone who knew him well would think to look. You're bluffing, am I? Tom reaches slowly into his vest pocket, pulling out a folded piece of paper. Found this in Molly's shop tonight. Hidden inside the lining of Harold's coat, the one she's been mending for 3 years without knowing what was inside. Webb's face goes white. That's impossible. Harold was smarter than you gave him credit for. He knew you were planning something, so he made copies of everything and hid them where his wife would eventually find them. Tom unfolds the paper, revealing columns of numbers and dates, shipping manifests, financial records, and a signed confession detailing your embezzlement scheme. The paper flutters in the night breeze like a flag of surrender. Webb stares at it with the expression of a man watching his world collapse. "Give me that," he snarls, raising his gun. "Can't do that, Marcus." Tom's own weapon appears in his hand with fluid grace. "See, this evidence is going to the territorial marshal, along with testimony about your attempt to frame Molly for murder. You think anyone will believe the word of a fat seamstress and a drifter cowboy? They'll believe the evidence. They'll believe Sheriff Garrett's testimony about how you bribed him to arrest an innocent woman." Tom's eyes flick to Garrett. Assuming the sheriff wants to save his own neck, Garrett looks between Webb and Tom, calculating odds and consequences. "I never agreed to be part of a murder," he says finally. "You took my money," Webb snaps, "to arrest a suspect, not to frame an innocent woman for a crime you committed." The alliance crumbles like a house built on sand. Webb finds himself alone, facing 3 armed men and a woman who knows the truth about his crimes. "It's over, Marcus," Molly says quietly. "Harold's death, the lies, all of it. It's not over until I say it's over." Webb's voice carries the desperation of a cornered animal. "I've worked too hard, come too far to let it end like this." He swings his gun toward Molly, finger tightening on the trigger. Tom moves without thinking, throwing himself between them as the gun roars like thunder in the night. The bullet takes Tom in the shoulder, spinning him around and dropping him to his knees. Blood spreads across his shirt like spilled wine. "Tom!" Molly rushes to his side as Garrett and his deputies draw their weapons. "Drop it, Webb!" Garrett shouts. But Webb is beyond reason now, beyond calculation. He raises his gun again, aiming for Molly's heart. The second shot comes from Tom's gun, fired from his knees with his offhand. The bullet takes Webb's center mass, dropping him like a felled tree. Marcus Webb dies as he lived, grasping for something that was never his to take. In the aftermath, as they tend to Tom's wound and secure the evidence, Molly finds herself holding the man who risked everything to save her. His blood stains her dress, but his eyes are clear and focused on her face. "Why?" she whispers. "Why did you do it?" "Told you before," he says, his voice weak but steady. "You're exactly what I want. Even now? Even knowing everything? Especially now." He reaches up to touch her face with his good hand. "You're not responsible for Harold's death, Molly. You're not responsible for Webb's greed. You're only responsible for your own choices. And what choice am I making now? That's up to you." She looks into his eyes and sees not pity or obligation, but genuine love. Love for who she is, not who she might become. Love without conditions or demands. "I choose you," she whispers. "If you'll have me." "Already told you I would." His smile is weak but genuine. "Question is, will you have me? Wounded cowboy with a talent for trouble." "I'm not like other women," she says, echoing words from what feels like a lifetime ago. "That's exactly why I love you." 6 months later, the Mackenzie Ranch sprawls across 1,000 acres of prime Colorado grassland. The main house is modest but comfortable, with a wide porch that catches the morning sun and a kitchen large enough for Molly to pursue her passion for cooking. Tom's shoulder healed clean, leaving only a small scar and a story they tell on quiet evenings. The evidence from Harold's coat led to the conviction of 3 other men involved in Webb's embezzlement scheme, and the recovered assets provided more than enough capital to start their new life. But more than that, it gave them something neither had dared hope for: a love built on truth instead of lies, acceptance instead of judgment, partnership instead of possession. Molly still sews, but now she creates beautiful things instead of mending broken ones. Tom still works cattle, but now he comes home each evening to a woman who sees him not as a drifter, but as a man worth loving. On their wedding day, the preacher asked if anyone objected to their union. The silence that followed was not empty but full of acceptance, full of community support, full of the promise that love comes in many forms, and all of them are valid. When Tom kissed his bride, Molly whispered against his lips, "Please don't push too hard." "Never," he whispered back. "I'll be as gentle as you need me to be." and he was, in all things, always. They built a life together that honored both their strengths and their vulnerabilities, their past wounds and their future dreams. They proved that love is not about finding someone perfect, but about finding someone perfect for you. In a world that tried to define them by their limitations, they chose to define themselves by their love. They built something real from the ashes of tragedy, something lasting from the fragments of broken dreams. They built a love that was gentle and strong, patient and passionate, accepting and transformative. They built a love that lasted. Thank you for joining us on this journey of love, redemption, and second chances in the untamed West. If you enjoyed Molly and Tom's story of finding love against all odds, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more original Western romances. Next week, we'll explore another tale of unexpected love on the frontier, in The Widow's Secret and the Gunslinger's Heart. A story that will show you how sometimes the most broken people make the most beautiful love stories. Until then, remember that true love sees not what you are, but who you can become together.